Hey, let me tell you a story about a man who went to work one night and never came back. Not because the doors were locked, but because something inside that place stopped letting go. His name was Mark, a night security guard at a distribution warehouse on the edge of the city. Long aisles of metal racks, humming lights, forklifts sleeping in the dark. The kind of place that eats silence for breakfast. He worked there for years. Same coffee, same keypad, same routine, badge in, patrol, log entry, patrol again. Every shift blending into the next like one long gray blur. That night was supposed to be normal. No storms, no deliveries, just him, the building, and the sound of his boots on concrete. He clocked in, checked the cameras, took his flashlight, and started his rounds. Nothing strange, until he came back to the security desk and saw the schedule taped to the wall. His name wasn't listed once. It was there 6 times. 6 consecutive nights, all marked as confirmed. He frowned. He'd only signed up for one. Maybe a system glitch. Maybe some lazy supervisor duplicating shifts. He opened the digital log to check, but there was no clock out from the previous night. His last recorded exit was for days ago. According to the system, Mark never left the building. He stared at the monitor, rubbed his temples, shrugged it off. Tech issues. He'd seen worse. He kept working, made another patrol, walked past the loading dock, heard the echo of his own steps, counted them. 17 from one wall to the other. Same as always. Still, something felt heavier, the air thicker. When he came back, he checked the surveillance feed from the night before, a habit he had when nights got to quiet. On screen, he saw himself. Same desk, same movements, but something was off. That version of him scratched his neck with the wrong hand, left instead of right. It was small, stupid, but his stomach tightened. He flipped through more recordings, each one showing a slightly different him. One stood straighter, one limped, one hummed under his breath, each file labeled with a date, each stamped as normal activity. No entries, no incidents. He leaned closer, looked at the timestamp, then looked at his own watch. The time didn't match. The clock on the wall behind him showed to 17. Frozen, it had been to 17 since he walked in. He laughed quietly, checked his phone. 3:08. Fine. Batteries die, clocks break. But when he looked back at the monitor, the version of himself on the screen was watching the same monitor, same angle, same lighting, like a mirror. Mark blinked, turned off the feed, told himself he was tired, just tired. He went to the break room, poured coffee. The machine hissed like a whisper, the same old instant mix, bitter and burnt. When he came back, the logbook on the desk had a new line typed at the bottom. Shift 47 initiated, guard present, activity stable. The line hadn't been there before. He scrolled up. Every previous entry said the same thing. Activity stable. He felt a small pulse of heat behind his eyes. Tried to radio the supervisor. Static. Tried again. Nothing. The signal light flickered, but no voice came through. The building stayed quiet. Too quiet. He walked to the exit gate. Bad swipe. Red light. Invalid? He tried again. Nothing. His badge had been disabled. He thought maybe the system locked him out for missing an exit scan. The irony made him laugh again. He wasn't locked out. He was locked in. He sat back down, rubbed his jaw, watched the seconds crawl on his phone screen. Thought about calling corporate, then remembered the signal inside was trash. Only one bar in the whole place, in the far corner by the dock. He went there, lifted his phone. One bar blinked and died. The silence after that was worse than any noise. It had texture, a low humming pressure that made him aware of his heartbeat. He went back to the security desk, opened the last few camera files again, and there they were, 5 versions of him. Same uniform, different nights, each one ending at 17. No exits logged, no replacements clocked in. The system just kept overriding, as if the night itself was copying him. He leaned back in the chair and said out loud that it was all bullshit. Some bug in the system, some lazy tech error. Maybe IT would fix it tomorrow. He didn't believe it though, because deep down he could feel it. The rhythm of the place had changed. Time had folded into the same pattern and decided to stay there. He tried to convince himself to nap until morning, but morning didn't come. The sun didn't rise. The sky behind the tiny window in the side corridor stayed the same dull color. No dawn, no shift change, just the steady hum of lights. By the second day, he stopped checking the clock. It didn't matter anymore. He just kept moving, kept writing down notes, page after page, like proof he still existed. The handwriting started changing too, smaller, slower, like someone else was taking over the pen. Every note ended with the same word, stable. By the third night, he wasn't tired. He was hollow, the kind of empty that comes when your body keeps going, but the rest of you has already shut off. The radio cracked once. A voice said something like status confirmed, and died again. He tried to trace the signal, followed the sound to the main hall. Nothing but echo. The place looked endless now, like the racks had stretched further overnight. Same numbers, different spacing. His flashlight beam wavered across a pallet, an empty coffee cup sitting on top. His own cup, with the same crack along the rim, only he'd thrown it away hours ago. He didn't pick it up, he just stared, then turned back toward the security desk, where the monitors glowed softly. All cameras online. He switched to live feed, saw himself on screen again, standing in the exact position he was standing now. Only a half-second delay. He raised his hand. The image raised a fraction slower. He felt his throat tighten. He turned the monitor off, and the reflection in the black screen smiled. Or maybe that was just his mind. He backed away, breathing through his teeth, muttered to himself that it was just fatigue, sensory mix-up. He even laughed again, but it didn't sound like him anymore. He sat down and tried to log another report. The system refused, said user already active. 5 active sessions. He stared at those words. 5. Like the 5 versions on camera. He pressed enter. System froze. Screen went white, then black, then came back. Same sentence. User already active. Maybe it meant his profile was duplicated. He thought about all the times he joked about getting replaced by a machine. Didn't seem funny now. Around what should have been dawn number 3. He found the lights dimming on their own, motion sensors failing. The hum from the ceiling went lower, slower, as if the place itself was running out of breath. He went to the door again. No power, no code. The card reader was dead, the keypad cold. He banged on it until his knuckles hurt. Nothing. When he came back, the monitors were already on. Folder labeled current shift blinking red. He clicked, and there he was, sitting in the same chair, watching the same monitor. The video timestamp matched the exact moment, but the him on screen looked calm, almost peaceful. Mark felt dizzy, turned off the feed, grabbed his coffee, spilled half of it on the floor. The stain spread like a dark circle. He stared until it looked like a hole. His breathing turned shallow. He told himself to stop thinking. Just work. Routine keeps you sane. He took another walk through the aisles, counted steps, wrote down details. Everything normal, everything fine. Only it wasn't, because each time he passed a certain corner, the shadows of the racks formed a silhouette, the shape of a man holding a flashlight, perfectly still, same posture as his, when he turned the beam toward it. Nothing, only boxes, always boxes. He returned to the desk, opened a blank document, wrote everything down, all the small things that didn't make sense. He planned to show it to someone once he got out, once morning finally came. But the word morning had started to lose meaning. At some point, he found his own handwriting in a previous report, the same sentences word for word, like he'd already written this story before. Only the signature looked older, more shaky, like it had been written months ago. That's when he stopped writing, stopped checking cameras, stopped looking for proof, because maybe proof was the trap. Maybe everything that could confirm he was real only made him sink deeper into the same night. The building had him now, or maybe his mind did. The difference was starting to blur. Around the time he thought the sun should rise, the radio spoke again, same voice, clear now. Shift 48 initiated, guard present, activity stable. He laughed. But this time the sound broke. The voice on the radio laughed too. Perfect timing, same pitch, like a recording. He shut it off, sat there in silence, then started turning off monitors one by one. Slowly, carefully, the room dimmed until only the light from the ceiling stayed on, soft and buzzing. He stood in the middle of the floor and said out loud that he was done. If the system wanted him, it could keep him. If it was madness, fine. Madness is still a kind of company. He walked to the gate one last time, swiped the badge. The red light blinked once, then turned green, but the bar didn't lift. He pressed his forehead against the cold metal and exhaled. Outside was nothing. Inside was everything he knew. He turned back toward the hall. The silence had shaved now. He could almost hear his own breathing bounce off it. He went back to the desk, turned on one monitor, a black screen. No feed, no text, pure quiet. He looked at it for a long time, then started talking, just talking, telling the story like he's telling it now, because that's how people stay real. They keep talking. He told it all, how he came in, how the clock stopped, how the system never logged him out, how every night looked like the last. He talked until the screen flickered, until his voice came back through the speakers, repeating word for word, same pauses, same breath. He smiled. Maybe he was alive. Maybe he was just another file. The story ends where it began, with the same building, same hum, same man on another night shift. Nobody knows if he ever got out, or if the job got stuck inside him. Maybe it was a system glitch. Maybe it was the start of a breakdown. Or maybe it's both. Either way, the cameras are still on, the log still says active, and the night never ends. If you like true stories that feel too real to be fiction, subscribe. It helps us keep the lights on, even when the shift never ends.